Hello everybody, and this week I was going to do a current quickie on this game, but it turns out I had a lot more to say about it than I initially thought. So with that being said, this week I've been having a little bit of a tinker around with The Evil Within. Spooky. So can I please get an intro now? So, The Evil Within. What do I think about it? Well, as most of you should probably know, I was extremely excited for this game's announcement and its eventual release, and when I was randomly shopping in a supermarket one day, I saw it there, didn't realise it was out, and then just bought it straight away. I couldn't tell you how happy I was to finally pick this game up. Before I actually played the game though, I read a few high-end critic reviews on the internet, and everyone seemed to really not like this game at all. Oh well, some people loved it, but then some people really didn't. And so my expectations plummeted significantly. When I finally picked this game up and played it though, I've got to say, even though I do understand and I can reason with some of the points that some of the critics were bringing up in terms of what they didn't like about the game, I've got to say, I really don't understand the amount of hate this game has been getting over the last couple of weeks. The Evil Within is a new entry into the third-person survival horror genre, developed by Tango Gameworks, published by Bethesda, and directed by the genius legend that is Shinji Mikami, the guy behind pretty much all of the original Resident Evils. He directed Resident Evil 4, he worked on Devil May Cry, and Dino Crisis. Basically, the man has a great track record. Anyway, when this game was finally released, some critics hated it, and some critics loved it. Where do I stand? I really fucking like this game. Why? Let me explain. As far as I'm concerned, this game feels like Resident Evil 4, but controls like Resident Evil 6. It's pretty much, if this game had Resident Evil slapped onto it, I would have accepted this as Resident Evil 6 over fucking Resident Evil 6 any day of the week. Also, this game does not hold your hand at any point at all. From the second it begins to the second that it ends, it grabs onto your balls, or your tits, and it doesn't let go of them at all, for anything at all, especially in the harder difficulties. Your main character, Sebastian, isn't the strongest of people and can die extremely easily, which is a massive shame because there seems to be quite a big lack of any kind of ammo in this game. Enemies are strong, there are traps everywhere that you have to disarm, and boss battles are really tough, you have a pathetic sprint meter, you never feel overpowered at any point of the game, and I love all of the survivally kind of things that this game brought to the table. I have to say as well that the intro sequence to this game and the first few chapters are extremely strong, probably one of my favourite beginnings to any game of recent memory for me. The back of your leg has been attacked, and so you're limping, and you're escaping. Escaping from what? A chainsaw-wielding butcher in a rotting slaughterhouse. In the first 5 minutes of the game. Round of applause, please. And then the game throws you into an old, gothic, dark village, seemingly abandoned, but actually is festering with all of these, not even infected people, but just horrible looking, weird, deformed, fucking barbed wire, metal, meshy kind of fucking villagers that are all out to get you, and you have no ammo while you're exploring this village. Also, another round of applause please. This is in the first few chapters of the game. Also, that presentation. Oh lord. On PS4 at least, this game looks fucking fantastic, and it's home to some of the most beautifully designed gaming architecture I've seen in a long time, leading to some of the creepiest catacombs, subway tunnel systems, detestable mansion corridors, and oh, the pitch black mannequin room. God, if you guys watched me stream that bit, I'm sure you can remember I didn't like that bit at all. All of this also contributes to the level design of the game, which is pretty damn good. Now granted, after the first few chapters of the game, it does tend to get a little bit more linear and streamlined, but it does leave enough open-ended areas for dangerous exploration around loads of horrid corners where any enemy can jump out at you that you can completely miss and completely ignore, but you have to explore anyway, so you kind of have to. Basically, what I'm saying is that even though the game does get more linear as it goes on, the variables in which you tackle the way you complete each bit is still quite high. And of course, you really need to explore all these areas, so you kind of have to confront what's around the other end of that corner, because you don't know where the next health pack is, where the next save point is, where the next bit of ammo is. Basically, you need to kind of bite the bullet and go for it sometimes. And even though it gets more linear, there are still areas which allow you to branch off and explore. As far as the presentation goes though, wow, this is one of the fucking grossest games I've ever played in my life. The monster designs here are excellent and genuinely really horrible, many of which include a giant four-legged beast with like 10 faces and bones sticking out of its its open fleshy wounds, and even more infamously around the internet, the spider lady. I don't know how many arms or legs she's got, but she's a spider lady with long greasy black hair, really long fingernails, and she scutters along the floor and jumps out of dead bodies. Yeah, they're pretty cool. And sometimes the game is downright vile with what it expects you to do. Some things including swimming in a vat full of blood and corpses, getting the perfect headshot only to then be covered and drenched in blood and guts from your enemy's head. And even towards the end of the game, you fight in a giant arena area, and it's like lined with human intestines on the floor, and in the corner of each part of the room are giant throbbing, blinking eyes everywhere. It's fucking demented sometimes. And why is it so demented? Because you're exploring the mind of a deranged scientist and I would say serial killer, which is, it's a fucking awesome concept for a survival horror game. And nope, that isn't a spoiler, it says that on the back of the box, so sorry about that, but I'm gonna say something now which is a spoiler, so if you don't want to hear it, stop watching the video now. Okay, basically in the first few minutes of the game you are captured and then stuck into a machine made by this doctor who worked with this crazy scientist, and it turns out that he's actually the bad guy, and then the crazy scientist guy, it's just his mind that's just fucking trying to get his revenge on the doctor, so that's kind of explained. But you're basically stuck in this dreamlike state machine trying to confront all of this person's deepest nightmares, and it's a really cool idea. And because of this dream state scenario, it means that the developers went fucking insane with what they could do. Not only in the main gameplay itself, but in the way that the narrative is quite compelling in the way that it unravels as you dive further into this person's minds and dreams and memories. And since we're stuck in an evil person's mind, this game is one that likes to really fuck with you. And not only does it like to fuck with you in the main game, but it also likes to fuck with you in the safe areas where you save your game and upgrade all of your stats and abilities. I really fucking commend the developers for doing this because you never feel safe, even in the safe areas. It just throws all of these fucking curveballs at you and it's great fun to go through. And thank God there's actually no use of quick time in the cutscenes. You can put the controller down and take a break for a second. Thank fucking Christ. Yes, there is a bit of quick time in which you have to turn valves and stuff like that, but that's it. There's no one-hit kill quick time events or anything like that. It's, oh my god, how long has it taken these developers to learn that that doesn't make horror? Quick time is really unfair in these kinds of games, and thank you for not including it. And the ending chapter as well is really fucking badass because you're in the previously mentioned eyeball arena I mentioned, and you're like, you're taking on hordes and hordes and hordes of enemies which get gradually stronger with each wave, and it gets so tense and it's so much fun to go through, and it's really badass. It makes you feel so good. It's so satisfying to get through some of these trickier bits. And even a bit before that chapter, there's a part where you get to man a turret and take down dozens of enemies all in one go on this one turret with infinite ammo. Now, I'm not a big fan of turret sections in games, especially when there's no point or that it's overdone to fucking hell. But in this game, it only needs one turret section near this bit towards the end of the game. And that's because up to that point, obviously you've had no ammo and you've been helpless, and then all of a sudden, like, not even joking, a few dozen of these monsters come at you. And then when the turret arrives, it's unbelievably satisfying to gun all of these fuckers down with infinite ammo in this one part of the game. The rest of it doesn't need it, but everything leading up to that point makes you feel so good, and it was really well placed for a turret section. This game's satisfaction levels for me were marvelous, especially when you pull off an awesome headshot or when you stealth kill an enemy. It's just so satisfying, and the sound design as well really fucking benefits that. The sound design in this game is great as well. And you know what the best thing about this whole thing is? Some of you are probably sitting there thinking, this sounds really fucking lame, it sounds overdone, it sounds unoriginal, it sounds cliched. And you're right, yes, you're completely right, but the great thing is that this game never fucking takes itself seriously. The plot is compelling, yes, but it's also fucking ridiculous. Character motives are stupid, the lines are fucking cheesy as all hell. This game is all about having fun. It's basically a massive cheesy throwback to all of the classic survival horror games way back in the 90s. It's so much fun to go through. If you were to make a drinking game of all of the cliches you can find in this game, you will die in the first few few minutes. Basically, the game does not hide the fact that it is stupid and silly and ridiculous. It throws every cliche it can at you within the first 10 minutes of the game, and even with all of the cheesy lines and everything, it never holds back with that, and I love how they did that. And not to mention, there's even a recreation of the original zombie encounter from Resident Evil 1. I mean, what more could you say? It only gets more insane and absurd as it goes on, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when you hit the giant decaying city and then this giant fat man, big-titted spider thing comes out from behind the buildings and starts trying to eat your bus. It's loads of fun, basically. Throw all of that insanity in with some genuinely tense moments, a highlight for me being when you're stuck in an underground catacomb sewer and you're being stalked by this giant man with a safe for a head and a giant hammer and a sack of flesh. And I don't know if he infinitely respawns, but he does respawn pretty much every time you kill him. And you've got to open all these valves to stop gas coming down so you can carry on through the sewers. And when you take all of the moments like that into it, you basically end up with a really fun survival horror game. But this game is not perfect, and now I'm going to have to talk about the things I really didn't like in it. Firstly, as far as the PS4 version goes, the introduction for some fucking reason, which is literally just you walking up to a mental hospital, that's it. For some reason, the frame rate was fucking abysmal, and it was only on that bit, and it runs smoothly through the rest of the game, but for some fucking reason, the intro was fucking broken. Why? I don't know. Pulled me out of the game as soon as I picked it up, I've got to say that. Also, I do have to mention the letterboxing through the whole game. It's not the best design choice I've ever seen in my life. Now, believe it or not, I'm not one that's completely opposed to the idea of cinematic gaming, and there are some games in the past that have done this whole movie crop letterbox thing, and I think got away with it. I think it worked with that kind of game that it was. But in this game, a survival horror game in third person where you need to be able to see everything coming around you from left, right, top and bottom, it does feel far too cramped sometimes. And when you're basically being surrounded sometimes, you wish the game basically begs to be in widescreen. I mean, after about half an hour of playing the game, you do completely forget that it's there and you get used to it, but still, initially, it's kind of off-putting. But speaking of which, though, the PC version of this game, I believe, is going to have some sort of mod developed in a couple of weeks, I think, or a couple of days, I'm not quite sure, but it's basically going to allow PC users to uncrop those two letterboxes, which awesome. I mean, that's awesome. I also said earlier that this game is ridiculous with its characters and its plot and its writing and everything, and where it is hilarious and it is really fun to go through. I mean, there were some lines in this game which made me actually laugh out loud to myself. Haven't had that in a game for a while. But where it is incredibly fun to go through, because of how ambitious the fucking plot is with the whole inner mind and everything, because of how ambitious it is, the plot does sometimes really trip over itself, and it has some quite big plot holes just gaping around waiting to be answered. And it does feel like sometimes that the plots and the themes and everything that this game tried tackling, it was a bit too big for it to chew. Also, even though the final chapter I thought was really badass, the final boss level is bad, to say the least. Very satisfying, but bad. Another thing to mention as well is that the puzzles in this game are far too fucking easy. Luckily, there are barely any puzzles in this game, so it isn't the worst problem, but when you see the creativity and thought put behind the presentation of these puzzles, like there's a part where you have to inject the right part of a living head's brain and shit like that, it's so creatively presented and disgusting, yet the puzzles are just fucking... the answers are in your face, and it's too easy. And finally, my biggest complaint with this game, some enemies are far too fucking powerful. And when I say that, I mean that they're constantly at your throat, following you, are quick on their feet, are pretty much impossible to take down easily, and always kill you in one hit, guaranteed 100%. That shit will definitely leave you frustrated. Now let me explain a little bit deeper to what I mean. In a game like Alien Isolation, where the alien can kill you in one hit, and it is a quick enemy and everything, the difference here is that in Alien Isolation, it's much easier to manage distracting the alien, evading the alien, trying to do, like, experimenting with the behaviors of the alien. It's easier to manage in that sense. But in this game, there are a few boss levels and a few encounters, not too many, but a few, which the enemies are much stronger than you, obviously, but are scripted to spot you immediately. You can't distract them, you can't evade them, you just have to try and get away from them. And they are fast, really fast, some of them can even teleport, and they will kill you in one hit every single time. it's imbalanced and it's really frustrating sometimes. And just for an example, in chapter 10, I believe, I'm not sure actually, there's you have multiple encounters with this spider lady, and she comes back in chapter 10 so you can finish her off. And in this part though, where in the last part she could only swipe at you and take a bit of your health away, this time she kills you in one hit when she sees you. And in order to stop her, the only thing you can do, by the way, is stop her with fire. How do you stop her with fire? Basically you have to aim up at these like gas pipe levers, and when you hit the lever, fire comes redirected down from above and it burns her alive. Sounds pretty useful, except the fact that she scutters along the floor really quickly, meaning, because of the letterbox crop, when you aim up at the fucking gas lever, you can't see where she is, so you have to make a guess when to shoot the lever. And you'll either hit it too early, in which case you've wasted your chance. You only have one chance to hit this gas lever before it becomes unusable again, and then she'll just walk around and come back and end you because you can't stop the fire, or you'll hit it too late, in which case she'll pop right under your letterbox crop and kill you in one hit. And you were fucking too late. And but earlier in the game, I think chapter 9 I believe, there's an enemy stalking you and teleporting as well and can kill you in one hit called Ruvik. But that encounter worked. How? Let me explain. The way he works is that he randomly appears, but he randomly appears rarely, and he randomly appears at a distance from you, and the game gives you plenty of indication of when he is appearing. When he does teleport, he teleports not too far, and he's only really there to just freak you out. And when he's walking around trying to catch you, he's really fucking slow. And when he does appear, he's only there for less than, I think probably less than 30 seconds, probably 20 seconds or so, and then he vanishes again. And that actually really worked, because the game gives you enough indication to when he's appearing, and it gives you enough chance to get away, and it doesn't make him the most difficult thing to evade, and when you do get caught by him, you lose all of your progress, and it's very, very frustrating, sure, but it's because you weren't quick enough to escape from him, because the game does give you a lot of time to do that, and when you're fighting other enemies while he's around as well, it does get really, really, really tense sometimes. And I was sitting in my chair, sweating through my palms, basically trying to get through this chapter, hoping to God that he wouldn't appear because of that. It's because I knew I could fairly evade him and fairly get away that I was scared for him to appear, because I didn't know what to expect from him. And even on multiple replays of that chapter, there are some times where he would never actually appear at all, and I was just left there, going into each door, scared shitless, waiting for him to pop up and surprise me, and he didn't at all. That, I believe, in my opinion, is doing the one-hit kill enemy thing correctly. And it makes me sad that most of the other one-hit kill enemies weren't thought out with the same kind of idea that this one was, or thought out in the same kind of way that the alien from Alien Isolation was. It would have been much cooler if it was sought out like that. But, you know, it did kind of feel like cheap difficulty sometimes, but it doesn't happen too often. And it is manageable, and it is obviously possible because I did beat the game, so ugh. But you know what, to end this on one more positive note, the campaign mode of this game lasted me over 17 hours and 6 minutes, I believe. And for a campaign mode of survival horror nowadays, that is brilliant. I mean, that's really, really damn good. It's really deep, really lengthy, lots of things to collect, and when you beat the game, you are rewarded with more weapons and stuff like that, and more upgrade juice, so you can upgrade more of your weapons at the very beginning of the game. And I haven't played a game where I've wanted to replay the game straight away after beating it ever since, I think, probably Resident Evil 4, because it gives you that lovely incentive to go back and try it all again. Oh, and not to mention, for anyone that's competing, I beat the game in survival mode, which is the normal difficulty, with 60 deaths, so take that as you will, I suppose. So anyway, after tinkering around with The Evil Within, I will definitely have to say this game, despite all of the problems I have with it, is a high-end commendable, and so basically an 8 out of 10, I suppose. As far as I'm concerned, this is a really damn fun survival horror game, and it's not the best I've ever played, but it's still a really damn good one. And it's great to see this third-person survival horror experience kind of game coming back into the limelight after the more action-heavy games of recent memory. And even now, I don't really fully understand most of the real bad hate this game has been getting on gaming websites over the last couple of weeks. If you decide to pick this game up, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with what you find with it, and I am well up for a sequel of some sorts in the future. If this becomes a franchise, I am well fucking down for that. This game isn't perfect, that's for sure, but look at you. It's cheesy, gory as fuck, tense, hilarious, satisfying, creepy. never takes herself too seriously, and is overall just a complete fucking blast to play. Farewell everybody, and until next time, take care. Hello there everybody, and thanks so much for watching my silly video on The Evil Within. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, then please consider leaving me a little like, because that would help me out and all of your favorite content creators out a huge amount on the YouTube space. And if you want to see more of what I do, please consider subscribing, because I upload a video every Sunday. So yeah, can't go wrong with that, I suppose. I'm going to link you a few more of my other videos on the screen right now, and I'm also going to link you to one of my good friends, Hail Fail, Lucy that is, and because she did her own video on The Evil Within, on the PS3 version. So yeah, go and have a look at that, because I'm sure it'll be a bit different from mine, and I'm sure it'll cover a lot of interesting points with the PS3 version that I couldn't cover. So yeah, go and check her video out. And I'm also going to take this time to give a huge thank you to my top Patreon supporters. So you guys, thank you so much. Nicole Gunara, Christopher Miller, Tony Pierce, Mohammed Al-Sali, Delmar Mullins, Greg Black, Abdullah Almana, Brad Bird, James Tigani, Tamaxco, Benjamin Peasley, Ahmed Al-Mutua, and Alan Angert. Thank you so much, all of you guys, and thank everybody at home for watching this video. And if it's your birthday today or watching this video, then happy frickin' birthday to you, and please remember to stay beautiful.